You're listening to the Station 71 podcast with your hosts, Mario,
Beth,
and Brian.
So this week we've got a couple news things to talk about. Want to start with the big one, or do we want to go a little bit smaller first? Where do you guys think we should start?
doesn't matter to me.
Let's start at the top of the list. So the big thing that came out that everyone's kind of super hyped about is that we got an opening date for Toy Story Land, June 30th.
Super excited.
It feels so soon.
I know.
Yeah.
Like, I know we're all super hyped about this, but like, I cannot believe it's just right around the corner. Like, it feels so unreal that, you know, only a couple months ago we were just talking about this coming to be a thing, and now it's like we got 4 months to wait.
Yeah, and I don't know, I feel like it's kind of gotten overshadowed with Galaxy's Edge coming out, you know, and all the hype's been focused on that, but I'm actually really excited about Toy Story Land.
Oh, totally.
The fact that it's happens to open on the day before my birthday makes me really want to plan a trip, but I don't want to be anywhere near this park on opening day.
I don't know. I know that we've been talking about our trip this year and everything, and I'm pushing it further off towards the end of the year just because, like, even if I get to just see Toy Story Land in passing, I might be okay with that. I don't know. I'm really excited about this, though.
Yeah, I'm excited for a reason to go to Hollywood Studios again.
Yeah. I actually, I was looking at my Twitter feed earlier, and someone had said something about how, like, the photos that we've been getting just don't feel like a Disney park. And I totally think that that's like so not true. I'm just so excited for how this is going to be. And like, yeah, it's going to be a little weird because the idea of like the coasters and all that just kind of being in the open area is kind of like amusement parky, I guess. But like, that's what this is supposed to be. And I know you guys love Chester and Hester's for that reason, but I'm just super excited because I feel like this is going to do it 1,000 times better, and you'll finally see that that's garbage.
Well, the people saying that it doesn't look like it's coming from a Disney park, it's like, I mean, Hollywood Studios is kind of about not looking like a park in a way, you know? Like, Galaxy's Edge isn't going to look like, I don't know, a typical theme park.
I feel like Galaxy's Edge is going to be super well themed, though, and that's kind of what people are like. It's hard to explain where my mind is at with this right now. Like, I'm definitely in the camp that this is going to look and feel like a Disney park, but I also kind of see why people are like, no, that's not a thing that Disney does, even though, you know, Chester and Hester's.
I'm just hoping that they basically take what they do in the queue for Toy Story Mania and just make it bigger.
Yeah.
Because that's awesome.
So I didn't put this on there, and I kind of want to talk about this because we're in Hollywood Studios right now, and I know that the next couple of things kind of don't really tie in with Hollywood Studios, but I sent you guys an article this week about the D23 event that happened and how there were some details and stuff that came out about it. And one of the things that we got was that Rock and Roller Coaster in Disneyland Paris is going to be rethemed to a Marvel attraction. And I had this conversation with a friend of mine this week. We were talking about how Rock and Roller Coaster now is getting a retheme in Paris, and Tower of Terror already got the Guardians of the Galaxy retheme. Does anybody else feel like once Disney gets the theme park rights to this coast, that little strip in Hollywood Studios is going to be the Marvel spot?
You know, I don't feel strongly one way or the other about Rock and Roller Coaster. You know, I mean, I like that it was Aerosmith themed. I think that's kind of losing relevance with the new generation rather
Sorry,
quickly.
Kirsten.
Yeah, I know. I mean, But I would be upset if Tower of Terror gets its theming changed.
That's exactly where I'm at. I'm very like worried that that's what's going to end up happening. Like, I wouldn't care if Rock and Roller Coaster got rethemed because, like, yeah, do something with it, bring the relevance back. But like Tower of Terror, man, I know we all have a special place for that.
Yeah.
I would
And
be really surprised if they rethemed it. Because from what I've heard, the Tower of Terror at on the West Coast was not nearly as, like, I don't know, immersive as ours.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
Yeah, I've heard that as well. I just kind of wanted to poke at that with you guys to see what you thought, but it's definitely interesting, but not relevant to our park at all.
Yeah, and I mean, and it's one of those that would be very easy to swap the theming over, but I just think about how that's gonna like mess with the overall theming of the park if that was something Marvel themed. Now, if you start on that side with Rock and Roller Coaster, you're gonna have moving from like a Marvel theme into old Hollywood into whatever they're gonna brand the middle section of this park as with the Runaway Railway ride, and then moving over into Toy Story Land and then to Galaxy's Edge. It's going to be very interesting to see how they are able to blend theming with all this.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm very interested to see what the future of Hollywood Studios holds. So, actually, staying with Hollywood Studios, I forgot that I put this in here. Tickets are on sale for Star Wars Galactic Nights at Disney's Hollywood Studios. It's May 27th, 2018 is the start of this event. It's going to be just like an after hours thing. I believe it said it was 7 to midnight. And it's different, like special entertainment, photo opportunities, event exclusive merchandise, food and beverage and encounters with rarely seen characters. So if you're a big Star Wars fan, this is going to be the event for you. I have not had a chance to go to this, and I think it would be pretty cool too, but definitely something to draw people into Hollywood Studios.
For sure.
Then the last thing that we have is in that same D23 thing came details for the Guardians of the Galaxy coaster at Epcot that is replacing Ellen's Energy Adventure. So I know Brian read a little bit about this. I kind of skimmed this article. Did you have anything you wanted to say about this?
I mean, so it's confirmed that it's going to be a coaster. It's going to be fully enclosed, and Disney's actually saying that it will be the world's largest fully enclosed coaster, which is pretty interesting. Other than that, they're kind of playing their cards close to the vest with this, but they are saying that it's going to introduce some new technology, which is always exciting when Disney says something like this because it's usually something pretty innovative.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see everything that comes from this.
Yeah, I don't know. I had mixed feelings at first about this, but like the more they're kind of like dropping things here and there about it, I'm kind of getting excited for it. The only thing that's kind of like making me a little bit hesitant to go full in excitement is that it's still the opening day that they're scheduling it for is just in time for the 50th anniversary, which is still like 3 years away.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's going to be cool, and I think it was much needed in this park. Well, in that building.
Yeah, definitely. I was not sad about that.
The only thing that I'm still like kind of weird about is their tie-in. I don't know if you guys remember the tie-in that they used for this, but the fact that Star-Lord visited Epcot once was their big selling point back at D23.
So I mean, it's kind of a cheesy tie-in, but hopefully it'll work.
Yeah, I think this goes back to them trying to appease the fans that are very diehard loyalist Epcot people that don't want to see a lot of IP in the park, which I'm not on that bandwagon. You know, I'm excited about this just because it is Guardians of the Galaxy, and you know, I think it's better than having just an empty pavilion at Epcot. So
Right.
I don't see the backlash against this.
Yeah, I don't either. It's just fun to talk about how that's their tie-in. All right, now that we've breezed through the news, you guys want to talk about our topic this week?
Yes, I am very excited about this.
So am I. Brian and I have been talking about this for a little bit, but if you've listened to our shows, you know that Brian and I are definitely like the resident pin traders here. I know, Beth, you've done a little bit here and there, right?
Yeah, I'm mostly a pin purchaser more so than a trader. But
Okay.
I've done a decent amount of trading.
Okay, so this week we're going to talk about pin trading and kind of like the big, I guess, encompassing topic that this is. In the recent years, it's definitely been kind of dying out a little bit, but I think it's important to talk about like all the stuff that you can do with these pins and why they're fun to collect. So let's start it off with the basics. I know you had some stuff in here about that, and I kind of want to just bounce off of some of the things that you have because you definitely hit all the like really good points for this.
Yeah. So I guess you know, a lot of people come to the parks, and if they haven't been there before, they see the cast members and a lot of the guests wearing lanyards with pins. And, you know, I guess it's pretty easy to pick up that, you know, kind of the basic gist of what pin trading is. But for those people that are wanting to get started in this, you know, there's a lot of online resources to look into, but I broke down just some of the basic stuff about, you know, what to do to get started with it. Because I guess one thing that I'll say is that pin trading can be a relatively expensive hobby depending on how far you want to get into it. So the first thing that I put in here was to get started out, I would suggest going to one of the many stores or booths that are set up around Disney World and getting a starter set, which most times includes a lanyard and usually 4 pins, which can be had for around $30. And I think it's a good way to kind of like get your feet wet into it and get pins cheaper than if you were to buy them individually, and also a lanyard just to try it out.
There's to also go off of that every now and then when you're in the parks, check to see what's on sale too, because I know they always run those deals where you can buy the hidden Mickey sets. It's like 2 of them in a lanyard, and they're usually like $20, and that's super cheap. Thinking about like for what you get, it's typically like 4 pins in a lanyard. So there's always a cheap way to get started in pin trading.
Yeah. So basically, once you've got your lanyard and a couple of pins, you can go up to any cast member that you see wearing a lanyard and ask them to see their pins. And at that point, you can decide to trade with them if you see something you like. Just one other thing to point out, though, usually cast members will wear black lanyards, or they will have a little, I don't know what you call a little side satchel looking thing that has pins on it too. And those are open for anybody to trade with. But if you do see a cast member wearing a green lanyard, those are specifically for children to trade with.
I haven't seen many green lanyards around. Have you?
It used to be a lot more often that I would see them, and I haven't lately. Now, granted, I will preface this by saying that I'm more on Beth's side now. With I collect a lot more than I trade, and in fact, I haven't traded in years. But you know, I still stop by and look at cast members' lanyards a lot, but I do rarely see the green ones anymore.
Also, sometimes cast members will have backwards pins on their lanyards.
Oh, yes.
You cannot see them, obviously, they're backwards. But it's kind of like a blind trade, which that's also really fun, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
You kind of just grab a pin that you don't want off of yours, you give it to them, and then it's luck of the draw. Sometimes you get really lucky where they're pins that you haven't seen before, or they might be really rare pins, but that's always like one of my favorite things to do is just ask for like the mystery one that they have on their lanyard. Also, my whole thing with pin trading, kind of backstep a little bit, is this is a great way to interact with cast members, and just kind of be social in the parks. Before I started like really pin trading, I kind of like, my interactions with cast members were fairly limited, just because like, you can go throughout your day and not really just stop to talk to them, but sometimes you just, when you're pin trading, you just stop, you talk to someone, you trade a couple pins with them, and you kind of get that interaction that you wouldn't have had before. So definitely would recommend it for that reason alone.
And I started pin trading back in 2000 when I was a kid. And I'll say, I was a very shy kid and did not like talking with people, especially people I didn't know out in public. And pin trading was kind of a good way for me to, come out of my shell a little bit and talk with cast members, because I feel like Disney's a pretty comfortable environment for a kid to be in. And, pin trading is a great way to kind of, come out of your shell and do these interactions.
Yeah, definitely.
Also, don't be like, if you see a pin on someone on like a cast member's lanyard that you want, but like, you feel like your pins might not be as good or whatever, like don't feel intimidated by that, because the cast members will trade you for whatever you have.
Yes.
Right.
But I kind of want to bounce off of that and take a moment to talk about something that's further down on our list. I think you know where I'm going with that.
Yeah.
Scrappers.
Yes. So one of the biggest plagues to pin trading are scrapper pins. It is very, very easy to go on like eBay or Amazon and order a bulk lot of pins. We've all been there and thought about it, but that is a very bad idea, because that is kind of what's hurting the Disney pin trading economy at the moment, I guess you could say. Scrapper pins are basically like, I don't want to say like third party. They're not manufactured by Disney. That's the best way to put it.
So yeah, they're unofficial. They might have actually purchased the molds from Disney in some cases and are making them, but they're making them with cheaper metals, lower quality stuff, and they're not officially Disney branded pins.
And they, most of the time, they look very much like the actual Disney pins, so it is very hard to kind of tell what is and what isn't. There's guides all over the internet to telling which ones are official Disney pins and which ones aren't. So we don't have to dive too much into that. But definitely, if you're going to Disney, I do not recommend buying bulk lots of pins online, no matter how enticing it may be.
Yeah, because, it's very, very enticing when you look at, if you are a somewhat serious trader and you are looking to get a lot of pins, to go into the parks and just trade off. The difference between spending, $8 per pin on the cheapest ones at Disney, or, usually around $1 per pin if you go buy scrappers on eBay or Amazon. Like it's very enticing to do it, but I think you hit the nail on the head. Is that, it kind of is, it's bad for the other guests, because at the end of the day, you're going to end up putting a scrapper on a cast member's lanyard, and somebody else is likely going to come by and end up with that pin again. And, it's just, I can understand, like I said at the beginning of this, it can easily become a very expensive hobby to get into. But if you're into the hobby, I don't understand why you would want to, put these scrappers out there, knowing that if you ended up with one, you would be pretty unhappy.
Right. And I think another problem is that people don't realize, like Mario was saying, they're kind of hard to tell apart. Some are pretty obvious, but some of them are pretty legit looking, and it's just like minor coloration or differences or something like that. So a lot of times people don't even realize, like, maybe like I have a friend who I'm pretty sure they're all real, but she had a bunch from her childhood, and she was like, hey, here's, like, you can have all these pins. It's like, I would have no idea of knowing, because I didn't actually buy those. So, it's unfortunate.
And it is very hard to tell the difference on most of them. Like I'm looking at a guide online right now, and a lot of it's mostly just like the coloration's off, or like the design on the back of the official Disney pins. I want to say the real ones have like more smooth edges, and the fake ones are a little bit rougher. It's super hard to explain it unless you're looking at pictures of it. So I'll put this in the show notes, but definitely just like try to avoid that, because we've hit the nail on the head so much here that I think we're beating it to death. But it's kind of like it's the thing that's really making pin trading not as popular as it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go back to the other stuff. After that, we had pin boards and stuff like that. I had a bunch of locations down here that you can trade at too. So I think we can kind of bounce around here. But your main point on this list, Brian, was that there's pin boards in most of the stores in the hotels, which is 100% true. If you go into any store, any hotel gift shop, and just say, hey, do you have a pin board? About 99% of the time they'll have something. And it's usually like, I know some of them are special themed. Like Caribbean Beach has like a treasure chest that they open up, and like the cushion on the inside is covered with pins and stuff like that. Pretty much the same kind of ruling as like the cast lanyards. You could trade 2 pins off the pin board or whatever. And sometimes you get some neat stuff, especially because a lot of them aren't very much advertised. They're usually kind of like behind the counter and put away until someone asks for them.
Yeah, I actually, on my trip recently, I went over to Fort Wilderness and then like over to Wilderness Lodge, and they have a huge pin board in the lobby there.
Yeah.
I've seen that a couple times, and they always have some really cool pins on there.
Yeah, I actually traded one.
One of the only sets that I've completed, I actually completed there and at the one in Disney Springs, which I'll get to that one in a second. But I have the Hidden Mickey set. It's Pascal from Tangled, but in every different color.
Oh,
and cool. I think I got like the purple one here, but I really did like that pin board.
Yeah. Well, I know I've said this on here before, but when I was growing up, we usually stayed at the campgrounds when we went to Disney. And back when I was really big into pin trading, I would always get good ones at the campground, because not a lot of people are coming there unless they're, at the campground. So, if you go into the parks, unless you get there early, a lot of the lanyards and even the boards have been kind of picked over for the good pins by the time you get there. But yeah, the campground and even by extension, a lot of the hotels are good places to go if you're looking for specific pins that you're trying to complete sets with.
So the other pin board that kind of goes off of that is the one in Disney Springs. Have either of you guys had an experience here?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so Pin Store in Disney Springs has a kind of hidden, not so hidden pin board. Like, you can pretty much tell where it is, but it's like a big trifold panel that opens up randomly throughout the day, and it's usually only open for like about an hour, half hour, somewhere around there. It's a very limited window. But this thing is like they have it all sorted by the different pins and everything, so it's really easy to find what you want. But do you guys even know where this is? Like,
yeah, I know.
Okay. Pin store.
Yeah, it's in the pin store, but like on the back wall, because I feel like I know where it is, and because of that, it's like super obvious to me. But I don't want it to be like super obvious if it's not. But once they open it up, they'll allow guests to line up. You're not allowed to line up before it opens, because it could not open for like another 2 hours or so. There's no confirmed schedule on it. You just have to be super lucky. And I think this is probably one of my favorite places to trade pins, just because I found so many different things on here. Usually this is a pretty good spot to find stuff that's not been picked through.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
definitely.
That's really interesting.
It's one of those weird things where it's like, I feel like with how pin trading used to be, it was probably like super popular. I kind of like really missed the heyday of pin trading. But like now, people will ask the cast members and they're like, oh, we don't know when it's going to open. I've gotten a bunch of different stories about how they actually open it. So I honestly don't even know what it is. I've heard sometimes they'll open it for like younger guests and stuff like that, but I've also heard that there's like a random, alarm that goes off throughout the day and it tells them to open it up kind of thing. But definitely if you're lucky enough to catch this, even if you're like, rushing to go somewhere, stop to check it out because it is pretty cool.
Yeah, I didn't even know this existed.
It's it's funny because like it's right there. It's like a big board and like it opens up and you're like, oh wow, there's a lot of pins on that thing. But off of that, do you guys have any other cool spots to trade pins? Because I have like a list here and I want to like just keep going.
Keep going.
Yeah, every time I trade is just totally random. Just the mood strikes me.
So the other one that I actually only really recently found out about, and recently being like 3 years ago, at any of the stroller rental locations, if it's not busy, and I stress this to like a very high degree, you can ask them to see their pin stroller and they will wheel out a stroller that is covered in pins, and sometimes they have like plush in them that have like pin lanyards on. I can confirm this in Magic Kingdom, Animal Kingdom, and Epcot. Haven't tried in studios, but if you ask them while they're busy, 9 out of 10 times they'll say, oh yeah, we don't do that anymore. So definitely try to do it like midday after the first rush has gone in and before everyone's returning their strollers, because you got to get it when it's convenient for the cast members. But that's actually one of my favorite spots because usually they have some good pins, and it's just kind of cool to see them wheel out a stroller that's covered in Disney pins.
Yeah, that is really cool. I need to check that out.
So on that, I think one of the other cool pin trading spots that's a little off the wall is the trash can at Animal Kingdom.
I haven't done that one.
I haven't actually traded with it, but it's pretty cool just to see the giant pin board on the side of this rolling trash can that just kind of randomly appears at times at the park.
Yeah, I think those kinds that you guys have been talking about are the coolest, like the ones that you don't, they just kind of happen upon, that a lot of people don't really know about. Probably a good way to get better pins.
Well,
yeah.
And that's the funny thing. Like, I know I started this off by saying that like the whole reason that I pin trade is for cast interaction, but like a lot of my favorite spots are places that aren't cast lanyards. Like, I love the pin strollers, the Disney Springs board, and then a couple of like the resort pin boards that are like really cool themed that blend in. Just because they're kind of like not something that I feel like a lot of guests ask about anymore. And I kind of mix up their day a little bit, maybe. But I don't know. They're cool to check out. So another one that I've had some luck with. It's not an official Disney one, but that like pin trading building that's in Epcot, like
yes,
right before you get to World Showcase. There's a couple tables that are usually spread up there, and sometimes, like if you get really lucky, it's like a hot spot for pin traders. I know that they used to do like pin trading meetups and stuff there. Like one time we went on a trip and there was a guy that had like this giant binder of pins and he let us like flip through them and trade some stuff with him. I know he had a lot of like really rare pins, so he was super protective of those. But it's cool to just kind of like look at them, get to meet some people and talk about something that you're having fun with.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen people here too with binders and like big collections. But I feel like that's so much more intimidating because they can say no.
Well, the funny thing about it is like we met this really nice older gentleman there one time when we went. Um, my cousin was collecting, like, they have a Finding Nemo set that it's all the fish in like the plastic bags. And he found one in the guy's binder, and it was similar to one that he had had, but the one that he had had was a scrapper pin. And the guy was like, "Listen," he's like, "I don't have any of the other ones in this set, but here, I see that you're collecting it. Take it." Because we had like a really nice conversation with him, and he was really friendly. And a lot of people tend to forget that people go to Disney too, and you know, it's not just you in Disney World and all that. So I think this guy really enjoyed that we kind of took the time to talk to him and have a conversation about something that he was having fun with too. So he kind of like helped us out and talked about pin trading with us for a little bit. So that was fun. And that's kind of a fond memory that I have of that spot.
Yeah, that is really cool.
Cool.
So do you want to talk about like the types of pins? I think that was our kind of next point because I'm out of locations.
Yeah. So before this, I guess, I don't want this to come off like elitist sounding, but in my opinion, there's like 3 main stores at Disney that you can go to and really get the, like, I guess I would say like sought after, like good special pins. And 2 of those we've touched on, which is at the actual pin trading store at Disney Springs, the pin trading station at Epcot, and then weirdly enough, the Frontierland Trading Post has the special edition pins, and it's very unassuming because it's a very small store, but they actually are the ones that have the like high quality special edition pins. And those are the 3 that I know. I don't know of any at Hollywood Studios or Animal Kingdom that really you can go to get these.
I don't either.
Not really, but I will say that off of that, if you go to a lot of the deluxe resorts too, they don't have as big of a selection, but they do usually have a lot of the limited edition ones.
Okay.
I know we stayed at Bay Lake the one time, and the store in the Contemporary had all of the like AP, DVC, the like limited set pins, and I did end up getting a couple there, but that's a nice place to check for smaller volume stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But these places have a lot of the like the more common ones too, so it's definitely good to check them out for the ones that you might want that aren't like in a set or exclusive to certain people.
Yeah. And so I guess that's another thing that I'd like to touch on before we go into all these special pin types, because this are the ones that people that are serious into pin trading are going to collect. And now there's, you can go to almost any store nowadays in Disney and they're going to have some type of pins. And a lot of these aren't the really collectible ones. They're not a part of a set. But I would say, if you collect what you want to collect, I have worked over the years to complete a lot of sets and, still look for some that I'll get lucky on that I've been working on for years and years, but we'll probably never complete. But when I look back at all the ones that I have so many that were just like, I kept and remember because it was a cool cast member interaction, or if it was just, it had something special for that day. Like I have one, the first time me and my fiance went on Splash Mountain together, we got a Splash Mountain pin. I have a pin from when we got engaged at Port Orleans, and they're just, they're not the highly collectible sought after ones, but they're something that's special to me. And I would say, if you're getting into pin trading, don't think that you need to get the highly sought after ones. If you're a big Donald Duck fan, collect Donald Duck pins, like don't worry about them being in sets or if they're the sought after ones. Just do it how you want to do it.
Also, just off of that, if you're collecting a character, just don't expect to get all of them. There's a ton of them.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You could probably pick a very obscure character and there's probably still hundreds and hundreds of pins for that character.
Right. And I do like what you just said about how, like, there's some things that they're just mementos. Like, I have a pin from the first time I rode Expedition Everest, which was like the year it opened. It's that blue, like, bordered pin that looks kind of like a postcard with the Yeti on it.
Mhm.
And that one's super common. Like, I still see that one today, but I would definitely not trade that pin, even though it's one that I see everywhere, because it's from a time that I know that I went, and that's a memory that I have.
Mhm.
So it's definitely a cool little souvenir that's not super expensive to just kind of like, remember a bunch of different things with.
Definitely. But coming off of that, there are different types of pins that are sought after for collectors. So I guess I broke this down as kind of starting with the most common ones and then leading up to more collectible, but they're not in like specifically ordered that way. But the first one is mystery pin sets, which are pretty much what they sound like. These pins come individually in a box, and you do not see what pin you're getting. So there's usually between 6 and 8 pins in these sets, and you have to, by luck of the draw, hope you either open only one of each in these box sets, or try to trade with cast members to get ones that you are missing.
Those are fun, and usually they're like super common movies or like different like themes that are very easily accessible to everyone. I know I've seen Beauty and the Beast, Star Wars, Nightmare Before Christmas, stuff like that. So they're definitely like super accessible to pretty much anyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and these are available at most stores, not even the pin trading specific ones. So they're pretty easy to find.
Have you ever done any of these?
I personally avoid these just because of how, like, I know if it's like a set of 6 and I ended up getting 5 of them, I'm gonna keep buying the boxes until I finish the set, and I just try to avoid that from the get-go because I'm kind of a completionist.
So I have a really funny story about that. Yeah, it was our first trip that we went. My girlfriend is the same way, and of course, Beauty and the Beast is her favorite movie, and they have a box set for that. So we go in to one of the pin trading stores, and first time she's there, she's like, "I really want to do pin trading," because I had talked about it a lot. And she buys one of these box sets for Beauty and the Beast, and she didn't get the one that she wanted, so she bought 3 more. She got 3 different ones in that box set, so now she's got 4 different pins out of a set of 8. And then she bought like 4 more, thinking, "Oh, I'm probably gonna get a double somewhere." Somehow, she only got 1 double out of the 8 that she bought. So
Wow.
she, like, in one shot bought the whole set except for 1 pin. And I want to say she had doubles of like Cogsworth or something. And I was like, just don't buy anymore. Like, I know you want to, but you're going to end up with doubles of all of them.
It's a slippery slope.
Right. I was like, you're testing your luck real hard right now. So she didn't. And funny enough, we ended up at, I want to say it was Animal Kingdom, and we went to the pin stroller, and they had the one she was missing. So she traded Cogsworth for it. And like, it somehow managed to leave without doubles of any of the pins.
Wow. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I still have no idea how she got that lucky.
Oh, man.
But after that.
Yeah, so the next type of pins, which are probably the most common of the what I would consider like the collectible pins at Disney, are what, I don't know if they still really refer to them as this, but back in the OG pin trading days, they used to be referred to as lanyard series pins, and they're pretty much now called Hidden Mickey pins. But these are cast member exclusives. So you cannot go into any store, even the specialty pin stores at Disney, and buy these. These are only given out to cast members on their lanyards, and you have to trade to get them. So back in the day, they actually, when they were still just considered lanyard series pins, they didn't have any kind of distinguishing marking on the front to, say that they were lanyard series pins, they had them on the back. And I can't remember, or I mean, the amount of time that I spent like going up to cast members, having them take the pin off, flip it over, check to see if it was a lanyard series pins, put it back on, was pretty significant. So now they all come with a little hidden Mickey somewhere on the front of the pin. So they're pretty easy to spot nowadays.
They've also kind of blurred the line between lanyard exclusive and being able to buy them, because these come in those foil packs now.
Yeah.
So like they used to be that way where they were like you can't really find them anywhere besides the cast member lanyards, and now like how it is now is that there's the foil packs that you can buy where it's like that year, and they release a set of hidden Mickey pins from that year, and it's got like 4 different sets in one thing. So you buy this bag and you might get one of the set that you're collecting or one of the different set from that year. Mm-hmm. Now, where they've really started to like kind of differentiate it is they have the completer pin from that set, where it's basically the same pin that you've been collecting or a pin from that series, and it's not colored in. So it's just the enamel pin itself, no like coloration to it or anything, but it's this silver pin that goes with it, and you can only get that one pin on the lanyard. So it has kind of changed a little bit, but it's still very, very similar to that idea.
Yeah. And, you know, I do like the kind of old style of it because it, you know, it kind of forced people to have more interactions with the cast members, which I think is always good.
Now, I think this is also the set that like almost everyone collects because it is the trading set. Personally, this is the one that I do. I have a lot of these. There's 2 that I have. Sorry, no, there's 1 that I've completed or 1 that I'm still like hunting for the last one for. My Pascal set that I've talked about earlier. And then there was 1 that was park icons. And inside the park icons were different like characters that went with them. Mm-hmm. They actually had, I want to say, I have to look this up because I'm totally wrong, and my shadow box with all my pins is not near me, but they had one for Magic Kingdom, the Sorcerer's Hat, Animal Kingdom, and Epcot. And I want to say that there was one for Blizzard Beach too, which was really weird. But the only one I'm missing is the Tree of Life with Stitch on it. So if anybody has that, let me know.
Oh man. So moving on to the next type, pretty self-explanatory, but special event pins. These are pins that usually you can only get during the events. Now, sometimes if they don't sell out, they will sell these past the actual special event, and I have a pretty good example of this, but you see this a lot with Halloween party, Christmas party. A lot of hard ticket events have these, but also smaller stuff that you'll see throughout the years. I will say the example of the one that was supposed to be pretty limited was the 45th anniversary pins at Magic Kingdom. So I went during the 45th anniversary, and, you know, these were the hot ticket item. People were going into Magic Kingdom early. We spent one day where we just went to Magic Kingdom. Like, we weren't even really planning it, but we changed our plans so we could go to Magic Kingdom, line up early, and get these pins. We went there. They didn't have them.
Were you there on October 1st?
It was, I'm trying to remember the exact date. I don't think it was October 1st, but this was... Or wait, it might have been.
Because I was there on October 1st, and the line for these pins to the Emporium was literally like all the way down Main Street, like past Casey's. Like,
wow.
Like that's several feet past Casey's.
Yeah. Well, so the day we went, like, I remember it being insane. So we left and we went to Disney Springs to go to the pin trading store there. And we were still there very early. And we showed up, and I remember they only had, I can't remember how many different designs there were, but there were 2 really that we were after. One of them was Cinderella's Castle, and the other one was just Mickey with the 45th anniversary logo on it. And I remember, like, we were going to get both of them, and the people behind us were really wanting one too. So we ended up only getting one and letting the other person get the other one. Like, needless to say, we thought this was going to be like, oh, we finally got one. This is awesome. We were going to be one of the select few people that got these 45th anniversary pins. And I think less than 3 months ago, and they might even still have them, like, we went to the Emporium and they were just selling these, like, so they've had these for going on over a year now, I guess. And we thought they were going to be highly, highly limited run, and we were very wrong.
Yeah.
It's funny how that happens.
Yeah.
They love to create false demand.
Yeah.
Well, I also think that's kind of like how the pin trading climate is right now too. Like, obviously a lot of the 45th anniversary stuff was everywhere. Like, we went, oh my gosh, when was it? When we went for our not so scary trip. It was like the start of October that year. And it was after the anniversary, but I was still able to get like a couple things from the anniversary. So I feel like that's like they definitely overproduce some stuff and underproduce other things.
But even on this, I will say that I think the special event pins are probably my favorite to collect, just because, you definitely have a memory from those.
Mm-hmm.
And especially like, each Christmas party and each Halloween party and I'm trying to think of like each festival at Epcot. Yeah. Like each one of those, they come out with specialty ones that have the year on it. So it's cool to look back over the pins and like see one with the year on it. And, it definitely brings back the memory of that trip.
I will say that I'm a little disappointed that the Festival of the Arts pins this year, they have the year on the back, but not on the front.
That's weird.
Yeah, I was like kind of bummed, but I mean, they're still really cool pins. They're like the different like paintings with figment hidden in.
Interesting.
But yeah, I got one and I realized after the fact that it did not say the year on the front. Oh well.
All right. Well, after that, these next three are kind of in the same vein. These are available to people depending on, I guess we call this membership, different things. So one of the most popular is pass holder exclusives. Pretty straightforward. You have to be a pass holder and show your card to be able to purchase these. These are cool. I think they come out with probably 3 or 4 sets of these a year, maybe more. But they can be purchased at any of the 3 like main pin trading stores that I mentioned earlier. And these are generally pretty cool sets. And actually, I found that they're pretty inexpensive compared to most of the like special event or other exclusive sets.
We didn't even talk pricing. Oh, wow.
Yeah. So maybe we should touch on that real quick.
Probably. Just to kind of give you like a general rundown, the mystery sets are typically, I want to say, like the cheapest route. They're usually anywhere from like $5, I think, is what their average is. And then the pins themselves, what even is the range on them? Like the ones that you buy off the rack?
I think they start at $8 now. It's like $7.95 or something like that.
They're like 8 to 12, 15.
20.
Yeah, 15. Yeah. The special edition ones usually will run you about 15, 20, depending on which ones you're buying and where they are. So that's the quick rundown. And then the sets can be anywhere from $12 to like $30.
Yeah. And it depends a lot too on, the construction of the pins. If it's one that's got a bunch of sliders on it or that unfolds or something, those are going to be, more expensive than just a standard flat pin.
Yeah, and Disney makes it really easy to tell what the prices are. Everything's color coded. I know that they sometimes do that with like keychains and stuff like that, but this is the easiest way that they can do it. There's always a price guide in the middle of the pin rack that'll tell you blue pins are this amount, yellow pins are this amount, and then on the back of the pin there will be a color sticker that'll tell you exactly how much it is.
Mm-hmm.
So now that we've hit that, you can dive into those exclusive pins.
Yeah. So the next one is the the Disney Visa card holder exclusive. So if you have a Disney Visa card, you can purchase these. There aren't a whole lot of these. I think they really only come out with one set a year. There might be two. And they're generally not super extravagant looking, I would say, but they're pretty cool. I do have a Disney Visa, so it's kind of been a cool thing to, have access to these pins. But like I said, they're not my favorite sets generally out of all of the pins, but they're usually a little nicer than the off the rack pins that you can get.
I want to say that. Oh wait, you haven't finished. I'll wait till you finish with the different kinds.
Oh, all right. Well, and then the last one is D23 member exclusives. And I am not a D23 member, so I actually don't have any experience with this. But I know these are available also at the pin trading store in Disney Springs. And I think that might be about it. That's the only place I've seen these before.
Yeah, I think that's the only place I've seen them too. I think DVC has special pins, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
I think you're correct, actually. I forgot to put those in there.
That's okay.
Again, I'm not DVC either, so...
It kind of ties in with the pass holder thing and D23 thing. So they're all kind of... You have to belong to a special club to get them. But I think out of these, the pass holder usually has the best ones.
Yeah.
DVC sometimes does. Like, they're okay, but I can never buy them unless I'm with my aunt, and that's not very often. Do you guys have any of these like that you really like? Is there any special one that we've kind of listed so far?
So I have a pass holder set that I really like, and for no other reason that I think they just look really cool, but they're the like bronze statue ones. And these
I saw those.
Yeah, I saw these when they originally came out, and I really wanted to get them, and I waited and finally broke down and did. But I'm a huge fan of just the plain either of the like bronze or copper look pins. So when they had a whole pass holder set, I already knew it was like eventually I'm gonna have to break down and get these. And those are one of my favorite sets.
I honestly don't think that I have any sets. All of mine are like singles, except I have the like Orange Bird Hidden Mickeys, except for the completer pin, which drives me absolutely nuts. But that's the closest I have to a set.
I have a really cool limited edition Tangled one that I still have on the backing. I actually don't even know where it is right now, or else I would go find it. But it's like when you look at it from the front, it's just like this little board, and then you can pull it apart, and it's like a trifold thing that like folds out kind of like accordion style, and it's got like 3 separate pictures on the inside. I really like the pins like that, where they're like much bigger than what they actually look like right away. Those are my favorites.
I have one that I got as a gift. My boyfriend bought it. It's since the Princess and the Frog is my favorite. It's like a limited edition one that they like released when the movie came out. And if I recall correctly, it's a pretty small run. I think it's like 500.
Oh wow.
Or something. Maybe 1,000, but I like it because it's cute and special.
So it looks like you have one more pin thing on here.
Yes.
And I have no experience with this. I'm interested to see if you do.
So I don't have any of these. I think it's pretty obvious to say because these are very, very hard to find. But these are what are known as AP pins or artist proof pins. So essentially when Disney or whoever Disney is outsourcing the manufacturing of these pins to makes them. They'll do a limited run as kind of like they say it's to test out the manufacturing process, but I think it's just to add some exclusivity to it. But they are generally less than 25 per design of each pin, and they are run as kind of like supposedly a test run, but they're specially stamped as AP on the back of each one. And these are pretty sought after by hardcore pin collectors.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Yeah.
I've seen a couple of these online, and they always look really nice, but they go for so much money.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And
yeah, I've never heard of this.
Yeah, I mean, and it's one of those things that it's like it's cool to, I guess, to say you have it if you're really big into pin collecting, but at the same time, like from the front, they're gonna look like any of the other pins, that you could much more easily go out and get. So, I guess if you're really, really hardcore into it, which I'm not that into it, like it would be something to get. But like I said, I still just enjoy the pins for either a special memory that it brings back to me or the design of it. Not necessarily just they're exclusive because they're just a limited run.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, do you guys have any like pin trading stories? Any really special pins to you that you want to talk about before we tie up this topic on pin trading?
So I have a couple sets, and a lot of the ones that are like my favorite are the older ones that I started collecting when I was a kid. And a lot of these are incomplete sets, but it was still like, it brings such good memories back of like going with my parents and, spending probably way too much time like going around just trying to find these pins. But a couple of my favorite ones are the, I don't know if you've seen these, but the parking lot pins. They're for each section of each parking lot, each different park. It's like a pin for that. So, for example, they have the Imagine, the Amaze, the Discover, Create for Epcot. They got the stage and television, music. I think it owns the theater for Hollywood Studios, and they have like the Peacock, Dinosaur Draft, whatever the ones are for Animal Kingdom. And I spent a lot of time trying to get those, and I don't have a complete set of any of them. I'm pretty close with Epcot, but I also know that I'll probably never see any of these, like just on random lanyards around the park. So, but like I said, if you get into it just trying to complete sets and, only get stuff because it's part of a set and you want it, like, I don't think that's a very good mentality to go into it with. So even though these aren't complete sets, and I do really like to be a completionist, that one, the ones that I do have, like, it still brings back a lot of good memories, like, that I spent collecting them.
Yeah, I think that's my favorite is like, I have a couple sets, like the Hidden Mickey ones that I really like, but a lot of the ones that I know I'll never trade are ones that like I have specific memories of. I have one that I really like, and I haven't been able to find it again, so I don't know if they stopped printing it, but it's like a little oval pin, and the outside of it is a stained glass like portrait of the sorcerer's hat. And then it flips open. I can't remember what's on the inside of it. But that's one of my favorites just because that was one of the first few pins that I actually bought. But stuff like that, like I think those are the cool things. Or like, when you have an interaction with a cast member, and stuff like that where it's like a special memory. I think those are the best ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I also just enjoy when I find one on a lanyard that I just really, really like and have just no connection to it at all. I just enjoy it. And also really like whenever you see one and you're like, I have no idea what this is, but you get it and then you like go home and Google it. I don't know if you guys do that, but I've definitely done it.
Yeah. I have the set for the little animals that are whatever score level you get at the end of Midway Mania.
Yeah, I had one of
And
those.
yeah, so like I got that set and I had no idea what they were. And so that was one that I definitely had to, because I guess that when I was doing it, I hadn't ridden Midway Mania yet, so I had no idea what they were. But yeah.
I actually did that, and you guys are gonna think I'm awful for this, but I was talking earlier about the park icons set that they have,
Mhm.
where it's like all the different park icons, and they have one for, I guess it's Blizzard Beach, and then I think they might have one for Typhoon Lagoon, but there's like a dinosaur and an alligator on them, and I did not know what they were because I was not a fan of the water parks. So I was just like, what even are these and why are they here? But I felt like the worst Disney fan like buying them because the other ones were so awesome and I needed to complete the set. So like I got them off of like a trade and I was like, I know that this goes with the set I'm collecting, but I don't know what they are. So so anything else we want to talk about with pin trading and stuff like that?
I'm curious what you guys' rarest one is, if you know off the top of your head.
What was that?
Which one, like what pin do you have like that's the most rare?
My Tangled one is definitely the most rare one that I have, and the only reason I know that is because it has like a limited number on it. Other than that, like I do not care about rarity.
Yeah. The few that I do know that are super rare, I've got the complete Haunted Mansion Halloween set from 2016, and the completer pin for that one I think was 1 of 1,000.
Oh wow.
And then one I have, and I know it's a limited edition. I don't know how much it is, but it's the 50-year of Tinkerbell one. I think that one's pretty exclusive.
Nice.
But yeah, but like I said, like it's cool just to have them, and not necessarily care so much about if they're rare or collectible or not.
Yeah, I don't think I
Sorry,
really
go ahead.
have any that are super duper rare. Like I have a bunch of limited edition ones, but none like they're all, limited edition, not crazy low numbers.
One other one that I will say that I have that's kind of cool is it's one from Fort Wilderness, and every year they would come out with the pin, and it is like almost the same one every year, and they just changed the year on it, but it's like Mickey and the like raccoon hat, and it says Fort Wilderness Campground, and at the bottom has the year. I have the one from 2000 where he's holding a musket, and after 9/11 they actually took away the musket, and I think they replaced it with him holding a flag, I want to say. But like it's cool to have one of the last years that was him holding the musket.
Yeah,
that is pretty cool. Yeah. Real quick, I want to share a tip because we talked very heavily about scrappers, and we said Disney pin trading can be a very expensive hobby. But I'm going to give away my secret that I do almost every trip, and you guys are probably going to laugh at me for this, but there is one set that I buy every year, and I swear I've bought like at least 10 of these. But it's a set of 6 pins, and they're skull and crossbones, and they're all painted to be like the Mickey, Minnie, Donald, Goofy, Daisy, and Pluto. They're $24 for the set of 6, which is really good considering that like all of the other sets like with that many pins are usually like $30.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll buy all of them and trade them.
No, that's
super cheap.
Yeah, that's absolutely the way to do it. Once you really get into pin trading, just go find the cheapest, like that are official Disney pins, which if you're buying them at Disney, you'll know they are, and go out, because if you're going to trade them, there's no sense in really picking them out.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly how I stumbled on this set, and I know exactly which one it is too because I've bought it so many times, and it's one of those things that like I know that Disney like has it every time that I go because it's always there, it's always fully stocked, and I feel like I'm the only one that buys them. But that's my pin trading tip for this episode.
That's a good one.
So anything else on this topic before we tie it up?
So I guess just one thing, I used to, when I first started, keep all my pins on a lanyard because I was actually actively going into the park and trading them. And then I filled up that lanyard. So I actually started wearing 2 lanyards into the park. And then I got one of the actual little, carrying side hip pouch thingies with the separate pages. And now I've actually just taken them all out. And pretty recently I made a pin board. And I have found that this is much more enjoyable because every time I come into this room that I have the pins in, I get to look at them. And before they were kind of put away. So I know that's kind of the popular thing to do is to make a pin board, but I don't know if you guys had any other creative things to do with the pins.
I have a shadow box.
Yeah, I have a shadow box too, and mine is kind of set up similarly to yours. I have a big picture frame that's got the depth to it for the shadow box style stuff. And I just kept the backboard on it, put a piece of foam on it, and put some black cloth on it, and just poked all my pins through it. They stay on really well. And it's a great way to just kind of display them.
Nice.
Yeah, I've seen some people with amazing displays where they somehow made all of their pins a big shape of a Mickey Mouse head and stuff like that. And I'm just I do not have the coordination for that.
No, it's funny. I'm looking at my pin board right now, and when I started putting them all on there, I was putting them in the sets that they're in and stuff. And as it went further and further down the board, and the oddly shaped pins get added on here, it starts off very linear and neat looking, and it just devolves into this mess as it gets towards the bottom of all these random hodgepodge of pins. But
mine are kind of like that. They're in circles for each one. I have my Pascal set, I have my park icon set, and then I always try to get the t-shirt ones too for some reason. So they're kind of scattered all over the place. And then the random ones that I've bought for special occasions are scattered all over the place. And it just does not stay cohesive.
Yeah, I think I just have way too many pins.
No such thing. Now that said,
at least my justification is that at least they're small. My thing used to be getting the Tervis tumblers from every event.
Oh no.
And at the time, when I first got a ton of them, I was still living at home with my mom, and she's like, "You do not bring home another cup." I swear to God. And now my cabinet is just completely full, and I'm just I can't get rid of any of them though. So at least
I'm a
pins are
huge,
small and manageable.
I'm a huge collector. I have a massive pop vinyl collection, and I Disney mugs are also a thing I collect. So it's no surprise I do pin trading, but this is by far the easiest, most manageable collection I have. Now I want to pose a question to our listeners. If anyone out there has a pin collection that they want to share with us, I would like them to share that to our Facebook page or email a picture to us, because I want to see everyone's pin collections.
Yeah, I got some sets we're trying to complete, so hit us up.
Well, not even that. I just want to see what everyone's got going on right now.
No, yeah, seriously, just in the spirit of fellow pin collectors, I always love seeing people's sets because it's cool. Because you see, there's so many sets out there. I remember when I first started, back when it was really just taken off. You would see a lot of the same sets a lot, and now even as frequently as I go, being a pass holder, it's I can't keep up with all the sets that are coming out. It seems like. So,
yeah. And that's why I think I really like pin trading, because it's just so there's so much going on that there's just so many different things out there, and it's been going on for so long that they have the option to do that. But that said, we're kind of running close to time, so I want to do some listener correspondency stuff, because we did get a couple things these last 2 weeks. we had a comment on our Facebook post that I made last week from our friend Chant, who asked us if we could retheme any attraction at Walt Disney World, what would it be and what would you change?
Ooh.
So that's a very good question that I want to pass off to you guys because I got to think about that one a little bit.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
I know. It's like there's too much free reign here. I don't.
It's hard because that's one of those things that like I don't really like to think about because like I love most things at Disney. Like, yeah, there's a few misses here, and like we talked about with Stitch that one time, you know, it's fun to think about things that you would change, but I also really don't like to because it's not my job.
Wow, yeah. To think
He's got us stumped.
Yeah, so am I. It's funny because like we've talked about stuff like this before, like retheming Wonders of Life to Inside Out, retheming Stitch to anything else.
Anything.
Like, yeah, but like I don't know. I think we're at a weird climate right now with Disney attractions where most stuff is a hit, most stuff that's open.
Yeah.
You know, if I had to pick something, I think about this because, you know, like the era that I grew up in was like really with the Disney Renaissance movies. And I feel like as popular as almost all of the movies from that period were, they don't have a lot of presence in the parks as far as attractions. So I guess going off of that, one ride that I don't think extremely highly of is Soarin', and one of my favorite movies as a kid was Aladdin, and I think it would be pretty cool to retheme Soarin' as like a magic carpet ride.
That'd be amazing.
So there's mine.
That wouldn't be too hard to do either.
It really wouldn't. I mean, I guess that's the plus and downside of Soarin' is that it is a screen-based projection slight motion ride, so all you really got to do is change out the video because there's no theming in the queue as we've touched on before, so pretty easy to make it whatever you want.
Yeah, that's fair.
Can we retheme the American Adventure?
I was just thinking about that. Oh my gosh.
But can we make it like a full-length version of Great Moments in History with the
Oh,
yes, please.
That was too good.
Yeah.
I feel like I hate to say this because it sounds so like un-American, but American Adventure is just so long.
It is.
I always feel like super unpatriotic because I feel like that pavilion in general is the most boring. I'm just like, we were actually talking about this when we were in Epcot last week, and my boyfriend was like, you know, why did they decide to do like colonial America? None of the other pavilions are like big bustling metropolitan cities. Why didn't they could have themed it after New York or San Francisco or something? Yeah. And it would have been significantly more interesting.
So here's what I want to know too. And any of our listeners that might happen to be outside of America, I would love to hear your opinion on this because I don't know if it's that boring to us just because we are American and this is our culture. So it's not anything like, well, I say it's like our historical culture, but it's like, you know, it's stuff that we are pretty familiar with growing up in school. So it's like, it's not really special for us to go see it. I want to hear from somebody that comes to Disney World from outside the country if the American Adventure is as boring as most Americans think it is.
I have a theory about American Adventure. I think that the reason they themed it that way is because everything else is kind of like destination-y. And if you really think about it, a lot of the population that visits Disney World does come from inside the US. So if you themed it like a big city like San Francisco or New York, you know, the people that come from San Francisco and New York would probably find that boring. If you themed it kind of like, I don't know, any other state, it would be like that target that's coming from there is going to find that boring, or it's just an easy to visit place in the US. So they probably thought, okay, well, what's a place that we can have that's not super like visitable? And that's, I guess, colonial era America, because we don't have time machines. So that's my theory.
Yeah, and kind of like Brian was saying, like maybe it's just because, you know, in school I went on a million trips to Colonial Williamsburg, and
right.
I grew up in a town that the Revolutionary War was like a big part of. So it's just maybe we've just been overexposed to it. So I would be really interested to hear other nationalities' opinions.
And now it's my turn, and I have nothing.
Come on, we stalled for you, Mario.
I know, and that's the worst part. Like, I don't know. My whole thing is like, I really like a lot of the attractions that Disney has now, and even the ones that aren't super popular. Like, I don't know. My whole thing that I've harped on pretty heavily that I don't like at Disney, I honestly probably wouldn't even really like. I would get rid of it, but I wouldn't do anything to, and that's the whole Chester and Hester's area. Like, the only thing I would want them to do is tie the theming in more cohesively. Like, I know Brian here is going to tell me that I'm wrong, but like, I want them to be able to like do something else with that. And, you know, Disney had an opportunity when Good Dinosaur came out. Like, yeah, that wasn't the best Pixar movie ever, but they could have potentially done something else dinosaur related there, or anything really. It just feels so weak in comparison to everything else. But I don't have like a specific theme that I would go for or anything like that. Like, that's the hard part for me.
Yeah. I know, like, The Good Dinosaur didn't do awesome at the box office, but did it get a lot of bad reviews?
It was pretty mixed, because I think a lot of the criticism it had, like, I really liked it too. I think a lot of it was that everything that was in The Good Dinosaur could be found in any other Disney movie.
No, well, not that part where they ate the fermented fruit.
That's true.
That's easily the best part of the movie.
I think I'm gonna have to rewatch that now. But to bounce off of that, we had an email that came in last week that I don't want to like not answer on the air because I didn't answer it in the email box. We had a listener, John, email us and say, "Hey guys, big fan of the podcast, been listening since day one, and listening to your last podcast, I'm very much looking forward to you guys doing a podcast about drinking around the world at Epcot. I was lucky enough to do it last summer, and I wanted to know if you needed a different perspective while doing this while traveling with kids. I would be happy to help. Look forward to listening every week. Keep up the good work." And I just wanted to say, first of all, thank you, because I love things like this. Like, every time I get an iTunes review or a message that's like, "Hey, you guys are doing something good," like, I really like that. It makes me feel like, you know, someone's listening, like we've said before. But I'm super excited to talk about drinking around the world at Epcot. Like,
same.
I want to do drinking and snacks, like, just because I know that drinking is a very like niche thing. So I'm super excited for this, and I hope that this episode lives up to your expectations, John.
Well, even if he doesn't come on the episode, I would be extremely interested to know how he did it with children.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I'm an adult and I could barely do it.
Yeah, and you know, if anybody has any opinions on anything that we're talking about or anything we bring up, because we talk about future shows a lot, like this one we've been talking about for a little bit, shoot us an email and we'll be happy to read it. And if I remember to respond, I usually forget, so I'm sorry. But yeah, shoot us an email and we'll be happy to address anything that you have to say, especially if it's about something that we're going to be talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But that said, do you guys have anything else you want to say? Anything you want to touch on this week?
I think I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
Don't forget to shoot us your pictures of your pin boards and tell us why you think the American Adventure Pavilion isn't boring. Well, that's going to do it for us this week, guys. Thanks for joining us again on another episode of the Station 71 podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to us on iTunes and leave us an iTunes review as well while you're there. We'll be happy to read your questions, comments, concerns on the show. And if you want to get in touch with us, you can find us on facebook.com/Station71pod. We're on Twitter at Station71pod and Instagram at Station71podcast. If you really want to get in touch with us, you could shoot us an email at station71podcast@gmail.com. We hope you enjoyed your ride, and we'll see you real soon.